This is eternal human spirit, where every story proves why humanity never breaks.
The forbidden capture. The great chamber of the Galactic Council was silent. Thousands of alien leaders filled the circle-shaped hall, their eyes glowing in the dim blue light. They had come together after a messenger delivered terrible news. It was the kind of news that could change the fate of entire civilizations. The messenger was a thin alien with pale skin and trembling hands. His voice cracked as he repeated the words that spread like fire across the galaxy. "The Zorath raiders have captured human children," he said. His words echoed against the high walls. The chamber went quiet, as if the air itself froze. No one spoke. Many aliens leaned back in their chairs, shocked. A few even laughed quietly. They thought humans were strong warriors but still fragile creatures. What power could they show when their children were stolen? Surely they would collapse in grief. Surely they would beg the council for mercy. But not everyone laughed. One figure stood slowly. His tall frame and scarred face showed he was a veteran of countless wars. His name was Commander Draxel of the Dravari. He had fought beside humans before, and he knew their spirit. His reptilian eyes glared at the council, and his voice cut through the silence. "You captured human children?" Draxel roared. "Are you insane?" The chamber trembled with the sound of his rage. Dozens of leaders turned to look at him, some offended, others curious. Draxel pointed his clawed finger at the messenger. "Do you fools understand what you have done?" he demanded. "You have not captured soldiers. You have not captured weapons. You have captured their children. And for humans, that is worse than war itself." The messenger shook, his pale skin sweating under the heat of so many eyes. "The Zorath only thought it would weaken Earth. They thought it would make humans surrender," he whispered. Draxel's deep laugh was cold and sharp. "Surrender," he spat. "You have just signed your death. The humans will not cry and hide. They will not surrender. They will come for their children, and they will not stop until every star that hides them is turned to ash." The words spread like a storm. Through the chamber, some aliens muttered in disbelief. Others frowned. A few younger delegates whispered that humans were only a small race, barely a few centuries in the stars. They could not compare to older empires, but Draxel knew better. He had seen humans on the battlefield. He had seen them stand against armies that should have destroyed them. He had seen them bleed and break, yet never yield. His voice thundered again. "The humans will move with fire in their hearts. Do you not understand? For their children, they will burn worlds. They will fight until the void itself fears them." The council leader, a tall and elegant being of crystal, raised his hand. "Commander Draxel, control yourself," he said calmly. "The humans are dangerous, yes, but they are still limited. The Zorath believe they can manage this situation." Draxel slammed his fist against the table, the sound echoing like thunder. "Manage!" he shouted. "You think the humans can be managed after this? You think they will negotiate when their children scream in cages? No. They will hunt. They will strike. They will bring terror even to your proud crystal halls." For a moment, the chamber was silent again. Draxel's words hung in the air like smoke. Even those who doubted felt a strange fear rising inside. "Them." The messenger tried again, his voice weak. "But they are only children, small and helpless. Surely this will make the humans bow faster. Surely—" "Silence," Draxel growled, his eyes glowed with fury. "You do not understand. You never will. For humans, children are their soul. To harm them is to touch the very heart of humanity. You have woken something you cannot control." He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a dark whisper that chilled the room. "The galaxy will shake, the stars will burn, and it will not stop until every child is safe." The leaders sat frozen. Some still refused to believe, but deep inside their minds, the seed of fear had already been planted. They had all underestimated humans before, and each time they paid the price. What would happen now, when the reason was not survival, not power, but love for their children. In that moment, the chamber no longer felt safe. It felt like the calm before a storm that would sweep across the galaxy. And as Draxel returned to his seat, his final words echoed in every corner of the council. You captured human. Children, you have called down the rage of humanity, and that rage will shake the stars. Humanity learns the truth on Earth. The news of the captured children spread faster than any plague, faster than any fire, faster than any rumor the galaxy had ever known. It began as a whisper, a single encrypted transmission intercepted by human intelligence networks. At first, leaders dismissed it as disinformation, a trick by rival empires, to provoke panic. But as confirmations poured in from multiple channels, the horrifying truth became impossible to deny. Somewhere in the cold expanse of space, human children were locked away in cages by alien hands, their fate unknown, their cries unheard. The reaction on Earth was unlike anything the galaxy had expected. There was no collapse, no begging, no surrender. Instead, a heavy silence spread across cities and towns, a silence filled with grief, rage, and determination. In schools, teachers stopped mid-lesson as the news arrived on their devices. In homes, parents clutched their children tighter. In military bases, commanders looked at one another with grim faces. No one had to say a word. Everyone understood. Humanity would not forgive this act. Humanity would not let this stand. President Aria Venn, the elected leader of Earth, appeared before the United Human Council within hours. Her voice was calm but carried a sharp edge. She stood in the center of the great hall, her eyes blazing with the kind of fury that only a mother could understand. Our children have been stolen, she declared. This is not war, this is not politics, this is evil, and evil must be answered. Her words were broadcast across Earth, across colonies, across every human ship in the void, men and women, who heard them clench their fists, their hearts pounding with the same unshakable vow. Humanity would bring them back. The council chambers were filled with heated voices. Generals demanded immediate retaliation. Scientists pushed forward new weapons projects. Diplomats argued that humans should rally their allies. But none of these voices carried the same weight as the raw emotion running through every citizen. People donated their savings. Companies offered ships. Engineers worked through sleepless nights building new engines and weapons. Children, too, young to fight, drew pictures and wrote letters promising they would wait for their friends and siblings to come home. Humanity had never been so united. Not even in the face of extinction-level wars, and beyond the walls of Earth, their allies and enemies alike began to watch with unease. The alien commander Draxel, sitting far away in the council's chambers, saw the reports flood across his screens. His reptilian eyes narrowed as he studied the human broadcasts. He saw no fear, only cold determination. He muttered under his breath, "They are already moving." He remembered human history, stories of parents crossing burning deserts, fighting impossible wars, and standing against tyrants to protect their children. If history was any guide, the galaxy had just doomed itself by letting the Zorath commit this crime. Meanwhile, the Zorath raiders who had captured the children laughed and celebrated. They believed they had won a great prize. They imagined Earth's armies collapsing. Under the weight of despair, they told themselves that humanity would finally surrender. But they did not see what Draxel saw. They did not hear the silence on Earth, the silence that was not weakness but strength, coiling like a blade waiting to strike. The first signs of humanity's answer began in small ways. Entire networks of spies activated at once, codes whispered across encrypted lines. Human fleets that were scattered across colonies suddenly changed course, their engines roaring toward a single destination. Factories doubled their production. Hidden bases lit up across the asteroid belts. New alliances formed overnight. Races that once doubted humans now offered supplies and intel. not out of kindness, but out of fear of what humans would do if denied. President Ven stood again before her people, her voice steady. "We will not scream, we will not beg, we will not yield," she said. "Our children are our heart, and we will cross the stars to bring them home. Those who hold them will learn the meaning of our wrath." Her image was broadcast onto every human ship. Soldiers stood taller at their posts. Pilots gripped their controls tighter. Civilians felt their blood burn with a fire they had never known before. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread among alien races. Some pitied the Zorath, others laughed nervously, but a few wise leaders shivered. They knew humanity was not like the other younger species. Humanity did not fight only for conquest or pride. They fought for love, and there was no weapon, no strategy, no empire strong enough to crush a people who fought for love. In the shadows of his quarters, Commander Draxel poured himself a glass of dark liquid from his homeworld. He stared out the wide window at the stars. "You fools," he said softly. "You have no idea what you have unleashed. The humans are already sharpening their blades. They are already hunting you." He closed his eyes for a moment and saw again the mothers weeping, the fathers tightening their jaws, the soldiers preparing without complaint. It was not war they were making. It was vengeance, and vengeance carried by humanity was something far worse than war. In every corner of Earth, in every ship orbiting its colonies, a single vow echoed silently through the hearts of billions, a vow that carried no mercy, a vow that would ripple through the galaxy until the stars themselves trembled. The vow was simple. The vow was unshakable. Bring back our children, or nothing in the universe will survive our wrath. Shadows in the stars. The Zorath raiders who had captured the human children thought they were safe. They had hidden deep in a dying star system, a place where the suns burned weak and the planets were broken. The fortress they built was surrounded by mines, cannons, and fleets of warships. To them, it was unbreakable. A perfect prison. They drank and celebrated, telling stories of how humanity would bow once their weakness was exposed. But even in their laughter, a shadow began to creep. Across their empire, it started as small things: a patrol ship that failed to report back, a trading convoy that never arrived, a communications relay that went dark. At first, the Zorath commanders dismissed it as technical errors, but as the days passed, the silence grew louder, and a quiet fear began to spread in hidden corners of the galaxy. Human fleets were already on the move. They did not announce their advance. They did not broadcast their demands. Instead, they slipped through dark space using technology no one believed they possessed. Entire task forces appeared where no human ships had been detected before. They moved with eerie precision, disabling Zorath listening posts, cutting off supply lines, and striking at their hidden bases. The humans did not conquer these places, they simply erased them, and always they left behind the same message burned into the wreckage. "Bring back our children." Commander Draxel, who had warned the Council, sat in his quarters watching the reports flood across the galaxy. He knew the signs well. He had studied human warfare. He had seen their patience, their ability to turn silence into a weapon. This was not the rush of an angry species. This was the cold hunt of predators, calculated and merciless. He whispered to himself, "They are already inside your shadows." He almost pitied the Zorath, almost, but not enough to stop what he knew was coming. On Earth, the preparations had taken a new shape. Factories built not only weapons but entire fleets of stealth ships designed to slip through enemy defenses. Engineers worked night after night on gravity disruptors and shield breakers. Scientists designed weapons that bent light and confused enemy scanners. And in secret training grounds, soldiers drilled endlessly, their eyes burning with a fire no training officer had ever seen before. Every man and woman who stepped into those ranks carried the same vow in their heart, that they would not rest until the children were home. The Zorath leaders continued to mock the humans in their councils. "They are still young," one general boasted. "They cannot break us. Our fortress is hidden. Our fleets are vast. Their rage will blind them, and they will destroy themselves before they reach us." His words made the others laugh. But outside the council halls, his officers whispered nervously about the missing ships, about the strange silence that spread like disease through their communication networks. Some even claimed they had seen shadows moving in space, shapes of ships that vanished before they could be locked on target. The first real strike came without. Warning, a Zorath fleet of 50 warships patrolled the edge of their controlled system, confident in their power. Then, in the silence of the void, every ship lost power at once. Engines failed, weapons went cold, communications died, panic spread as they scrambled to restart their systems. But before they could recover, a single human ship emerged from the darkness. It did not fire a single shot. It simply transmitted. One line, burned into every screen, every console, every mind that read it: "We are coming for our children." Then the human ship vanished, leaving the fleet drifting helplessly in the dark. The Zorath commanders tried to dismiss it as trickery, but deep in their hearts, unease grew. They doubled their defenses. They moved the captured children deeper into the fortress, locking them behind layers of energy fields and armed guards. But the more they tried to tighten their grip, the more the shadows closed in. It was as if the very stars were watching them, waiting for them to stumble. Among the captured children, whispers of hope began to stir. Though frightened and weary, they remembered the words their parents had spoken, that humans never abandoned their own. Some of the older children comforted the younger ones, telling them stories of Earth's heroes, of soldiers who never gave up, of explorers who crossed impossible distances. They believed that their people would come, and that belief gave them strength to endure. Draxel received secret reports that even the Galactic Council could not ignore anymore. Outposts destroyed, fleets disabled, whispers of human ships appearing and vanishing like ghosts. Some council members began to panic, urging the council to intervene and protect the galaxy from human vengeance. But others scoffed, still blind, claiming humanity would tire and fall back. Draxel only shook his head and said, "You do not understand. For their children, they will never tire." In the darkness of space, the hunt had already begun. Humanity was no longer just preparing. Humanity was moving. And as the Zorath tried to laugh away their fear, they did not see the storm already closing in around them. A storm that wore no banners, made no speeches, and showed no mercy. Only the relentless. Vow whispered across the stars, "Bring back our children, or we will tear apart your worlds." The human advance. The galaxy had always known humans as stubborn survivors, a species that refused to yield even when the odds were stacked against them. But now, with their children stolen, the galaxy began to witness something far more dangerous. They were no longer simply survivors. They had become hunters, relentless and unshakable. Their advance did not begin with great battles or grand invasions. Instead, it began with silence, with whispers, with the slow suffocation of the Zorath Empire's lifelines. Trade routes that once bustled with activity fell quiet as human fleets appeared out of nowhere, seizing convoys and disabling cargo ships. The supplies that the Zorath relied upon to feed their colonies and fuel their war machines disappeared into the void. Outposts that stood watch on the edges of their territory blinked off the maps, their beacons going dark one after another. The Zorath commanders tried to re-establish communication, but each attempt ended in static. Each probe they sent out to investigate vanished as if swallowed by the stars themselves. And then came the broadcasts. At first they were faint, scattered, almost ghostly, but soon they grew clearer. The image of President Arya Ven filled the screens of Zorath outposts and colonies. Her voice, steady and sharp, echoed in every ear. "Return our children, or nothing will save you," she said. The words were simple, but they carried a weight that chilled even the most hardened soldiers. It was not a threat, it was a promise backed not only by the fleets hidden in the shadows, but by the burning determination of an entire species. The council chambers grew restless as reports flooded in. Alien leaders debated endlessly. Some insisted that humanity was bluffing, that their fleets were too small to challenge the vast Zorath. Others, more cautious, remembered Draxel's warnings and began to feel unease. Draxel himself stood tall among them, his reptilian face grim. This is only the beginning. He warned, they are not striking to conquer, they are striking to cripple. They are cutting the Zorath's blood supply before they deliver the killing blow. His words unsettled many, but still too many clung to disbelief. Meanwhile, within Zorath strongholds, panic began to grow. Civilians whispered of ships appearing like shadows, of colonies left abandoned, of soldiers deserting their posts. The arrogance that once filled their leaders began to crumble under the weight of fear. The captured children were moved again, deeper into the fortress, guarded by even more soldiers. Yet, even as they were locked away behind layers of energy fields, the whispers of humanity's approach reached their ears. The children held on to those whispers like lifelines, their eyes burning with hope. In the vast darkness of space, human fleets grew bolder. Their stealth strikes turned into open assaults. Small enemy fleets that once thought themselves invincible found themselves outmaneuvered and annihilated. Human pilots moved with precision, their ships darting between enemy lines with uncanny coordination. Entire battles were fought in minutes, and when the wreckage drifted silent, only the human ships remained. Humanity left no room for hesitation. They had one goal, and every action pushed them closer to it. The Zorath leaders tried to rally, calling upon their allies and mercenaries, promising riches for those who would fight against humanity. But even mercenaries began to refuse, for they had seen the human advance and knew there was no profit. In opposing them, those who dared to accept quickly discovered the futility of their choice. Fleets hired for gold and glory were erased in hours. Their remains turned into silent graveyards drifting through the void. On Earth, broadcasts of these victories ignited a fire across the population. Every report of a liberated outpost, every enemy fleet destroyed, every whisper of the children's location fueled the determination of billions. Songs were written, banners were raised, entire cities worked in unison to support the fleets. Humanity had turned its grief into an unstoppable weapon, and the galaxy could feel the vibrations of its march. And yet, through it all, humanity spoke only one demand. They did not ask for new planets. They did not ask for tribute or surrender. Their message was the same every time, carved into wreckage, broadcast through enemy comms, whispered into the ears of survivors, "Bring back our children." The galaxy began to take notice. Species who once doubted humanity now watched in silence. Some admired, some feared, but all understood that something far larger than war was unfolding. This was not about power or territory. This was about the core of human existence, about their fierce love for their young. The aliens who once mocked humanity's fragility now whispered among themselves, "What kind of strength lies in a race whose children inspire such fury?" Draxel sat in the council's high chamber. As yet another report came in, another Zorath fleet gone, another outpost erased. He looked at the council leader with hard eyes. "You think this will stop," he said coldly. "You think the humans will settle for negotiations. You are blind. They will not stop until they have their children. And if the galaxy stands in their way, they will tear the galaxy apart." His words hung heavy in the chamber, unchallenged, for even those who once doubted now began to feel the truth clawing at their hearts, and so the human advance pressed forward. Each step more ruthless, each strike more precise. The Zorath could not see them, could not predict them, could not stop them. The shadows that once belonged to the Zorath now belonged to humanity. And with each passing day, the storm grew closer. A storm born not of hatred or conquest, but of love, sharpened into a weapon. A storm that promised to break against the fortress. Walls where the children waited. A storm that no star could hide from. The rage ignites. The Zorath had always believed their fortress was beyond reach. They had built it within the shell of a dying star, its walls protected by layers of energy. Fields, fleets of warships and weapons designed to crush entire moons. To them, it was untouchable, but the humans did not see it as a fortress. They saw it as a cage holding their children, and to them, no wall was unbreakable. The rage that had burned, quietly across their fleets, now erupted into action, and the galaxy finally witnessed what it meant when humanity truly unleashed its fury. The first attack did not come with blinding explosions or massive fleets. It came with silence. Entire. Zorath systems went dark as human strike teams infiltrated their power grids. Their suns were bent by strange new weapons that disrupted gravity itself, and their fleets that once formed iron walls around the fortress found themselves cut off from fuel, communications, and reinforcements. Panic began to spread across the Zorath command as entire sectors reported losing control. Yet, even then, they refused to believe. "They are only humans," one commander barked. "They cannot hold against us. They are only flesh. They will break." But the truth was that humanity was not breaking. They were only sharpening. From orbit, human fleets descended like wolves, tearing into Zorath patrols with ruthless precision. Their ships moved not with the chaos of desperate fighters, but with the calm, coordinated strikes of hunters who knew every weakness of their prey. Zorath battleships that had once stood for centuries were reduced to burning husks within hours, and through it all, the human message never changed. Each battlefield echoed with the same transmission: "Return our children, or burn." Inside the fortress, the children could hear the rumble of distant battles. At first it terrified them, the shaking of walls, the alarms screaming through corridors, but soon their fear turned into something else. "Hope," the older children whispered. To the younger ones, "They are coming for us. Hold on, do not give up. They will never leave us here." And the guards who once mocked the children now looked at them with unease, for in their eyes they saw something unshakable, a light that refused to fade. Back. On Earth, the broadcasts of humanity's advance spread across every city and colony. Families gathered in silence as they watched the reports of destroyed fleets and captured strongholds. The grief that once weighed heavy on their hearts was now transformed into fire. Entire cities worked through the nights, building weapons, sending supplies, preparing reinforcements. The galaxy had never seen such unity. Every hand, every voice, every heartbeat to the same rhythm. Humanity's rage was not just carried by its armies, it was carried by its people. Commander Draxel observed from afar, his reptilian eyes fixed on the streams of reports. He knew war better than most. He had fought in countless campaigns across the stars. But what he saw now was not war. It was something more primal, something more terrifying. This was vengeance wrapped in discipline. This was love transformed into fury. He whispered to himself, "They are not fighting for victory. They are fighting for love, and that is a fire you cannot extinguish." He thought of the council, still trying to remain neutral, still trying to debate politics. He almost laughed at their blindness. The storm was already here, and it would not be stopped by words. The Zorath grew desperate. They deployed their deadliest weapons, ships armed with antimatter cannons, fleets powered by dark energy engines, machines built from stolen technology. They threw everything they had against the humans. But the humans did not retreat. With every strike that hit them, they struck. Back harder. With every fleet lost, another appeared from the shadows. Stronger, faster, angrier. It was as if the galaxy itself was bending to their will. Every star system became a battlefield, every planet a stepping stone. And then came the moment that shook even the most confident Zorath leaders. A human fleet, smaller in number, engaged one of the largest Zorath armadas guarding the fortress. The Zorath laughed at the sight, certain of their victory, but within minutes, the laughter turned to horror. Human ships moved like lightning, bending gravity wells to slip past defenses, tearing into the armada with strikes so precise it seemed like they knew every move before it happened. Within an hour, the armada was gone, reduced to wreckage drifting in silence. The humans lost ships too, but none of them faltered, none of them turned back. They pressed forward, leaving behind a trail of burning stars. Across the galaxy, the Council could no longer pretend. This was a small conflict. Reports flooded in from every corner, from every frightened witness. The humans were advancing, not as conquerors, but as executioners carrying out justice. "This is not war," Draxel said to the silent chamber. "This is judgment. You took their children. You made them into monsters. Now they will show you what it means to stand against them." The silence that followed was heavy with fear. Inside the fortress, the Zorath commanders tightened their grip, surrounding the children with more soldiers, layering defenses upon defenses. But deep down, even they began to feel the dread. The walls shook more violently with each passing day. The alarms screamed longer. The shadows outside grew closer, and in the silence between battles, they could hear something even more terrifying than the rumble of war. They could hear the whispers of human vengeance drawing near. The rage of humanity had been lit, and it burned brighter with each star system they passed. The galaxy looked on in awe and fear, realizing a truth that no one could deny. There was nothing more unstoppable than humans fighting for their children. The fortress was still standing, but for how long? For every alien who listened to the silence between battles, the answer was already clear. The humans would not stop until the fortress fell, until the children were free, and until every enemy who dared to harm them was turned to ash. The fortress falls. The Zorath fortress stood like a black scar against the dying light of its star. Its walls shimmered with layers of energy fields, its towers bristled with cannons capable of shattering fleets, and its hangars held thousands of warships ready to be unleashed. For generations, the Zorath had boasted that no enemy could break it. They called it the Iron Heart, the core of their empire, and they believed it would never fall. But to humanity, it was not an iron heart, it was a cage holding their children, and a cage is meant to be broken. The human fleets gathered in silence, their ships stretched across the void, countless in number, each one scarred by battles yet still burning with purpose. The commanders gave no speeches, the soldiers shouted, no war cries, they needed none. Every man and woman aboard those ships carried the same vow. The vow that had carried them through the shadows, through fire, through the endless march across the stars, bring back our children or burn. The moment had come, and the storm humanity had carried in its heart was about to break. The first strikes were not aimed at the fortress walls. The humans had studied their enemy well. They knew brute force alone would not break the Iron Heart. Instead, they attacked its lifelines. Entire fuel depots exploded in silence. Communication towers were cut down, and outer patrol fleets were sliced apart in moments. The Zorath tried to respond, sending out their fleets to intercept, but the humans moved like ghosts, vanishing and reappearing where least expected. It was as if the shadows themselves were fighting for them. Then, when the fortress was isolated, when no help could come, the humans advanced. The first wave of ships emerged from the darkness, firing with terrifying precision. The fortress walls trembled under the onslaught. Cannons spat fire into the void, tearing apart human ships, but for every ship that fell, 3 more pressed forward. The humans were not deterred. They did not retreat. They moved closer, step by step through a storm of fire. Inside the fortress, alarms screamed. Soldiers rushed through corridors. Commanders shouted orders, but even as they fought, a sense of dread spread through them. The walls shook under the human bombardment, corridors cracked, and flames spread through sections thought to be unbreakable. The children huddled together. In their cages, their small bodies trembling, but their eyes held a strange light. They whispered to each other, "They are here. They are close. Do not give up. They are coming for us." The Zorath unleashed their deadliest weapons, cannons. Powered by dark energy ripped through space, antimatter warheads detonated with devastating force. But the humans adapted. They bent the very fabric of gravity, twisting enemy shots back into their own fleets. They blinded scanners with weapons that bent light. They sacrificed ships willingly, knowing that each step forward brought them closer. To the heart, closer to their children, Commander Draxel watched the live feeds from afar. His scaled hands clenched into fists as he witnessed the impossible. The fortress that had never been breached, the fortress that had stood for centuries, was crumbling under the fury of humans. "It is happening," he muttered. "The Iron Heart is breaking." Around him, council members argued in panic, demanding to know whether they should intervene. Draxel only shook his head. "It is too late. Nothing will stop them now." The humans pushed deeper. Their ships tore open the fortress shields, blasting holes into the once unbreakable walls. In one daring maneuver, human pilots crashed their burning ships directly into the defense towers, sacrificing themselves to shatter the enemy's cannons. The explosions lit up the void, and through the smoke, the human fleets advanced again. The Zorath soldiers fought bravely, but they fought with fear in their hearts, while the humans fought with fire. As the fortress shook, the children inside began to hear the thunder more clearly. Walls cracked, dust rained from ceilings, and the guards' shouts turned from arrogance to desperation. The older children held the younger ones close, whispering words of courage. "They are almost here. Just hold on, just a little longer." Some guards tried to silence them with threats, but even their voices cracked with fear. They could hear the storm outside, and they knew it was only a matter of time before it broke through. The final phase came suddenly. Human ground forces breached the fortress walls. Armored soldiers stormed through corridors with unshakable determination. Their weapons cut down defenses as they advanced, their boots echoing against metal floors. The Zorath tried to block their way, but the humans fought like spirits of vengeance. Unstoppable and merciless, every step brought them closer to the chambers where the children were kept. And every step shook the hearts of the enemy. The fortress that had once stood as the pride of the Zorath Empire now burned. Its towers fell, its shields shattered, its fleets destroyed. The humans had done what no species had ever dared. They had taken the Iron Heart and ripped it open, and still they pressed forward, for the battle was not over until the children were free. In the smoke and fire, the galaxy watched in silence. For the first time, they saw the true meaning of human rage. It was not mindless destruction. It was not greed for power. It was a focused, unstoppable force born from love. And as the walls of the fortress cracked and the children's cries echoed through the chaos, the galaxy understood a terrifying truth. Humanity had turned its grief into a weapon, and no empire could stand against it. The Iron Heart was falling, and with it, the last defense of the Zorath, the galaxy held its breath, waiting for the final strike, waiting to see if the humans would achieve the impossible. And in the darkness of the fortress, the children lifted their heads, their eyes shining through the fear, for they could hear it now, the footsteps of their people coming closer, louder, unstoppable. The rage shakes the stars. The fortress was breaking, its walls torn open by fire, its towers collapsing under the relentless human assault. Flames and smoke filled the void, debris drifted like ghosts. Across the shattered battlefield, the Zorath, who had once stood so proudly behind their Iron Heart, were now reduced to desperate defenders fighting to hold ground that was already lost. The galaxy watched in silence, billions of eyes fixed on the transmissions pouring from the wreckage, and in that silence, one truth spread across every world. Across every species, across every council hall, humanity was unstoppable. The human soldiers moved through the fortress like a storm given flesh. Their armored boots thundered across metal corridors, their weapons cut down defenders who once mocked them. They did not pause. They did not hesitate. Every heartbeat carried. Them, closer to the chambers where their children were held, the Zorath tried to block them with barricades and ambushes, but the humans tore through them with a fury that was more than war. It was vengeance made real. For the first time, the enemy realized that this was not about territory or conquest. This was about something far more dangerous. The children huddled in their cages, the sound of war roaring closer. They clutched each other tightly, their eyes wide with fear but burning with hope. The older ones whispered again and again, "They are here. They are almost here. Hold on." Suddenly the ground shook violently, the walls cracked and the blast doors tore open with a scream of metal. Out of the smoke stepped the figures the children had been dreaming of. Human soldiers covered in battle armor. Their visors glowed with determination, and their weapons blazed against the last line of guards. In moments it was over, and the cages were ripped apart by strong hands. The children cried out, not in fear, but in joy. Their rescuers lifted them into their arms, whispering promises. "You are safe now. We are taking you home." For the Zorath, there was no victory left to claim. Their fortress, the pride of their empire, had become their grave. Their fleets scattered, their armies broken, their leaders fled or captured, and above it all, the humans carried their children back into the light. The galaxy held its breath as the images spread. Human parents holding their children, soldiers protecting them with their lives. It was a sight that seared itself into the memory of every species. For they understood then that there was no force greater than humanity's love for its young. In the council chambers, the silence was heavier than stone. No one dared to speak. All the debates, all the dismissals, all the arrogance had been shattered by what they had witnessed. Commander Draxel rose from his seat, his voice low but sharp as a blade. "You captured human children," he said. "You thought it would break them. Instead, you broke the galaxy. You have seen what happens when you touch what they love. This will be remembered for ages, and may the stars have mercy on those who forget it." His words struck deep, and none dared to argue, for all knew it was the truth. As the human fleets pulled away from the ruins of the fortress, carrying the rescued children home, the galaxy trembled with fear and awe. Humanity had not conquered new worlds. They had not expanded their empire. They had taken only one thing back, their children. Yet the destruction they left behind was greater than any war the galaxy had ever seen. The Zorath were finished, their empire shattered beyond repair, and still humanity spoke no words of conquest. No demand for tribute. Their message was the same as it had always been, whispered like thunder across the stars. "Never touch our children." The rage of humanity had shaken the stars themselves. It had shown every empire, every council, every species what it meant to stand against them. The lesson was carved into wreckage, written in fire, and spoken in silence. To fight humanity was one thing, but to threaten their children was to awaken a force that even the strongest civilizations could not withstand. And as the rescued children slept in the arms of their saviors, as their ships carried them home, the galaxy whispered in fear and respect. In the quiet that followed, Draxel stared out into the endless night of space. He had seen wars. He had seen empires rise and fall, but never had he seen anything like this. He whispered to himself, "The rage of humanity is not in their weapons, it is in their hearts. And when their hearts burn, they burn brighter than the stars themselves." The words carried through him like a prophecy, for he knew this was not the last time humanity would be tested, but it would forever be the last time anyone dared to harm their children. And so the story of the Ironheart Fortress spread. It became more than history. It became legend, a warning told in every corner of the galaxy. Some spoke of it with fear, others with admiration, but all agreed on one truth. The humans had shown their soul, and their soul was fire. And when that fire was ignited by love, it could not be stopped, not by empires, not by councils, not even by the stars. The fortress had fallen, the children had been saved, and the galaxy had been forever changed. The rage of humanity had been unleashed, and its echo would never fade. It would ripple across generations, across star systems, across every world that looked up at the night sky, a reminder carved into the cosmos itself. Never again underestimate the fury of a human fighting for their child.
Thank you for joining Eternal Human Spirit, where humanity always rises again.